Good morning, everyone. You're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Friday, May 15th, also a Teacher's Day here in South Korea. And coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min. At the top of the hour, these are the stories we're following. The coronavirus has taken a total of 300,000 lives across the world. While countries are battling the deadly virus, the United States and parts of Europe are preparing to get back to business. Trump cutting off ties with China. The U.S. president is threatening to sever the relationship between the world's two largest economies as tensions over the coronavirus ratchet up. Trump is considering a crackdown on China stocks trading in the U.S. Also, the U.S. government has advised the world's shipping lines to be vigilant about North Korea, Iran, and Syria's deceptions. This just one day after Washington decided to keep Pyongyang on its counterterrorism blacklist. The coronavirus has now killed over 300,000 people worldwide, and cases are surging in the U.S. and some European countries, but they're working to ease lockdowns, open their borders, and even restart public facilities. Our Oh Jung-hee starting us off.
The global COVID-19 death toll surpassed 300,000 on Thursday. According to Worldometer, the number of confirmed cases around the world now tops 4.5 million. 302,000 people have died and almost 1.7 million people have recovered. The US and UK have the largest number of reported deaths, with 86,000 and 33,000 respectively, followed by Italy, Spain, and France. 1,300 new deaths were reported in the U.S. on Thursday and over 400 in UK and Brazil. The virus is rapidly spreading in Russia. Confirmed cases spiked by almost 10,000 in a single day on Thursday. Italy also saw the biggest rise of cases and deaths in the past 7 days. COVID-19's fatality rate in Italy stands at 14%. On the African continent, total cases have topped 70,000 and nearly 2,500 people have died. However, as countries see fewer daily new cases, a number of them are looking to ease lockdowns. The EU has unveiled plans for a phased reopening of borders to restart tourism this summer. The continued lockdowns have had a significant impact on the sector, with airlines around the continent forced to lay off tens of thousands of workers. Tourism accounts for 10% of the EU's GDP and 12% of the region's jobs. Markets, museums, and zoos in Belgium will be allowed to operate from next week. And Italy has announced quarantine measures to reopen beaches in time for the summer. By Friday, at least 48 states in the U.S. will be partially running as states lift stay-at-home restrictions. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
And back here in the nation, officials are scrambling to test, track, and trace potential carriers of the coronavirus. The Seoul Metropolitan Government says it'll begin its own emergency inspection rounds starting today through next month. And they'll be focusing on English kindergartens and private academies that specialize in preparing kids for their college entrance exam. Watch this.
We have set up special inspection guidance for 612 kindergartens and academies. We'll also thoroughly inspect the facilities for their compliance to everyday life quarantine.
Kindergartens and institutions that do not abide by the guidelines will be faced with administrative action. English kindergartens have been operating despite school and kindergartens closures as they're classified as private language centers. And the move comes as an instructor in Incheon was confirmed to have transmitted the virus to students, parents, and a fellow instructor. Today, South Korea celebrates Teacher's Day on this May 15th. And normally it's a day for teachers and students to make some unforgettable memories. But this year's COVID-19 pandemic means that instead of giving gifts and surprising parties, as celebrations have been muted. Our Kim Sung-min with more.
Elementary school teacher Shin Seung-hee is sitting in an empty classroom recording a video for her online classes. She asks questions but receives no replies as no students are online. The school semester got further delayed due to the recent cluster infection of COVID-19 from Seoul's Itaewon district.
Does it look the same or is there a difference? Okay.
Teachers haven't even met their students face to face yet.
Although I haven't had the chance to get to know you guys, I hope you can resume your normal daily routines.
Students' absence is more noticeable than ever as South Korea celebrates Teachers' Day on May 15th. A small computer screen is not enough to get close to students.
It used to be a huge pleasure to receive letters and drawings from my students, so I feel so sad.
A teacher about to start her first year teaching cannot wait to meet her first students.
I try my best to do what I can at the moment so that I can be more helpful for my students later on.
It's one of the eeriest Teachers' Day ever in South Korea, and instead of enjoying the day with their students, South Korea's teachers are still waiting to meet them for the first time. 김성민, Arirang News.
And marking that occasion, President Moon Jae-in expressed his gratitude towards the teachers and appreciation for all teachers here in the nation. Through social media, Moon thanked teachers for comforting and supporting their students amid the postponement of the spring semester due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Highlighting their efforts to prepare for online classes, Moon said the teachers have been able to guide students on a new path of learning. He added that the government will be doing its best to support teachers by developing IT infrastructure and seeking ways to reduce administrative burdens. Trade and investment leaders from the G20 are standing together in the face of the coronavirus and its impact on the global economy. South Korea's trade ministry says the officials of the G20 countries vowed to work together to mitigate the economic impact of the virus and endorse several response measures during their second extraordinary virtual trade and investment ministerial meeting on Thursday. Now, those measures include the formalization of trade to make trade regulations more transparent, as well as improvements to the World Trade Organization over the longer term. And now to some strong comments from U.S. President Donald Trump. He's warning that the U.S. might cut off its whole relationship with China as the two world superpowers continue to raise the stakes in their verbal rhetoric tit for tat, especially over the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Lee Seung-jae with more.
In the latest escalation with China, President Trump is warning he could cut off the whole relationship with Beijing, adding there are many things Washington could do. Speaking on Fox Business's Mornings with Maria on Thursday, President Trump said slashing ties with China would save the United States $500 billion. While he did not explain what he meant by cutting ties with China, some White House officials are urging him to remove Chinese companies from U.S. supply chains. The latest remark is in line with this intensified criticism of the Chinese government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. He has also previously suggested that Beijing should be forced to pay a price for covering up the outbreak in the early stages. President Trump also responded to the World Trade Organization's chief's abrupt resignation on Thursday, calling the organization horrible, adding that the WTO has been treating China as a developing nation, hence giving them benefits the U.S. doesn't get. Meanwhile, during an interview with Israeli broadcaster KAN on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called on Israel to stop Chinese investments and partnerships. Pompeo warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other top officials that there's growing Chinese influence in the country, which Pompeo said puts Israeli citizens at risk. China has been developing a number of Israeli infrastructure projects, including water, ports, and transport, as part of its Belt and Road Initiative, which extends to over 70 nations in Asia, Africa, and Europe. The U.S. State Department also released a statement on Thursday, which denounced China's attempts to infiltrate systems involved in U.S. COVID-19 research. This comes as the FBI stated that the Bureau is investigating the targeting and compromise of organizations conducting research to develop vaccines and other treatments for the virus. If true, it would not be the first time China has attempted to steal medical information. Cybersecurity firm FireEye previously stated there were concerted focus by Chinese state-supported actors to access U.S. cancer-related research. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's import and export prices both fell in the month of April. The Bank of Korea says import prices dropped over 5% on month in April due to the falling global oil prices. The average price of Dubai crude, South Korea's benchmark, was around $20 a barrel last month, down almost 40% on month. Export prices were also down by 1.6% in the same period on the falling prices of chemical and petrochemical goods. On year, export prices were down almost 6%. The International Olympic Committee will bear $800 million of the cost of holding the 2020 Tokyo Olympics next year. IOC President Thomas Bach told the conference call at the IOC's executive board meeting Thursday that $650 million will be used to reorganize the Games. Now, the remaining $150 million will be supporting international federations and national Olympic committees. The $800 million does not include costs Japan will have to cover itself. The Olympics were originally planned for this July but were postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the IOC President Bach declined to speculate on whether the Games could be delayed further if COVID-19 is still a big concern next year. The United States has published a Global Maritime Advisory to help the shipping industry be alert to sanctions evasion by North Korea and other nations deemed bad actors by the U.S. Our Kim Hyo-san reports.
The Trump administration has issued a Global Maritime Advisory, a set of guidelines aimed at countering sanctions evasion by North Korea, Iran, and Syria. In a press release Thursday, the U.S. State Department explained the measures have been put in place with the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control and the U.S. Coast Guard. It added it hopes to alert the maritime industry, as well as those active in the energy and metals sectors, to deceptive shipping practices used by those countries in order to evade sanctions. The State Department says the advisory is intended to provide individuals and businesses with information on the latest trends in sanctions evasion, as well as effective tools to counter them. It also stressed Washington remains fully committed to preventing sanctions evasion and the smuggling of goods, which may facilitate criminal activity and threaten international peace and security. The measures can be interpreted as the Trump administration's reaffirmation on the basic principles of strict sanctions implementations against Pyongyang, while expressing its willingness to resume talks with the regime. The State Department also announced this week that Pyongyang has again been designated as a country that does not cooperate fully with Washington's counterterrorism efforts, along with 4 other countries, including Iran and Syria. It explained this bans the sale of defense items and services to these nations. North Korea was first placed on the list in 1997 under the Arms Export Control Act and has remained on it every year since then. The regime is also designated by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terrorism. Kim Hyo-san, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's a rainy Teacher's Day in Korea. In fact, parts of Jeju and Jeollanam-do province are under a heavy rain advisory this morning. You could see 30 millimeters an hour in those regions. And the further south you are, the heavier rain you'll receive. It's going to rain heavily through late tonight into early tomorrow morning. The rain has brought cooler air to the country. Seoul will remain in the teens all day today, while this weekend is shaping up to be rainy as well. But top readings will hike to the low 20s by tomorrow. But this afternoon will be a breezy one, only rising a couple degrees from this morning lows, ranging from 17 to 20 degrees in most parts, warmer on Jeju Island, topping out at 25 degrees Celsius. And it seems like we'll have to wait until next Wednesday to see the sunny skies back, as nationwide rain is in store for early next week. Meanwhile, temperatures will stay unstable. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that does it for this edition of Arirang News. But more news lineup coming up in our later newscast at noon Korea time, so do join us again then. As always, thanks for watching.